Hey everybody, welcome to this new live. I'm not with Joyce today, but I'm with Chris from Xano and Toby from Bravo Studio. Nice to see you guys. And today we're gonna talk about the CRM template that we show you to several weeks ago on Weweb, but hopefully now it's live on Bravo Studio and you will see how to create an app that's available on web, mobile using the same backend. So let's roll. Maybe before to begin, you wanna just present yourself, guys?
Do you want to go first, Chris?
Sure. So my name's Chris. I'm part of the customer success team at Xano. If you're not familiar, of course, Xano is a platform that allows you to build the entire backend for your application with no code, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, hi, I'm Toby. I'm the CEO of Bravo Studio. Bravo Studio is basically a tool that converts your mobile designs from Figma or Adobe XD into native applications by connecting the design directly to APIs from tools like Xano. So we kind of try and work well together.
Nice. So the first thing I will do is that I will go back a bit on the CRM template on Weweb and especially on Xano, and then we'll switch to Bravo Studio and how they implemented it. And finally, we'll show you how the data is synced between tools so that your app is both has the same data on the web app and the mobile app, which is kind of cool, to be honest. So let me just share screen. So here's the template, as you maybe remember it. So a classic CRM-like template with deals that you have in a Kanban and you can actually sort and change. You can create deals. So I won't go into details because we saw everything from our live, but with the contacts, the companies. And everything is actually stored in a Xano database that Weweb is using to fetch data from, that I will show you just after this. But again, if you want to play with this template is actually usable inside Weweb because, see, this is Weweb. And if you go on the dashboard, you can actually use it by creating a new app, a new project, and then here, select the CRM template. And just to show you how it was done in Xano, so it's actually a single project with 4 databases. So one with 5 tables, sorry. So one with the companies, one with the contact, one with the deals, and one with the notes attached to a deal, and users. So users is basically where you will store your users, and then all of them are linked to tables, to the other tables, to know which users, which companies are linked to which users, and the same for deals and contacts. So I can show you, for example, the companies. So it's a classic tables with several columns. So the cool thing with Xano is that you can create any types of column you want. So you see here text, integer, object, references to other tables that we use actually here to link companies to users, and all these kind of things making it really easy to create a column like you would do in a no-code way, but behind the scene, it's actually PostgreSQL, so it's really scalable, and it's really you can store lots of data, and it goes really fast. I don't know if, Chris, you want to add something on this?
No, I mean, you pretty much covered it. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of flexibility in what you can store in the database, and we can scale infinitely to whatever your needs are.
And for the thing that is much better than JetAdmin. I don't know JetAdmin, to be honest, so I wouldn't say, but yeah, it's kind of what I like about Xano, because I come from a programming background, that's really close to a normal database, but still you don't have to do all the migrations, all the setting your columns and stuff. But behind the scenes, it's a real database, so it goes really fast, and that gets me to the second point. So we created also an API around these databases, to these tables, to get the data. So here, for example, you've got the endpoint to sign up, to log in, to change your password. You also have want to get companies, search companies, get all the contacts. So everything is really simple to do. You just have to create an endpoint. You can edit it in a no-code way and run and debug it. So here, I need authentication, so I will just use my user. Okay, or this one. And here I get, all the data, like the JSON data that's actually used inside Weweb and that Bravo Studio uses also to display in the apps. Also templates, because we made a snippet out of it, but all this come with like functions that you don't have to even use to even create, but we create it for you to get user data, to generate secret tokens, to generate magic link for like the reset password. So everything is done already. And to use this, actually, you can use this snippet, the Weweb and Bravo Studio CRM templates that you can add to your Xano account, so that you get the structure of the project. So like the functions I showed, the databases, the API groups, the add-ons, all the things you need to get started really quickly. And actually, that's something I really love about Xano that we're working on at Weweb, is kind of having like this kind of marketplace of templates or like UI kits, and it's already live in Xano. It's really useful, so feel free to use it to bootstrap your Xano backend. And I will share to you the URL right away. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Xano. I went really fast because we used Xano already during the last live, but I don't know, Chris, if you wanted to add some stuff, because we're glad to have you here.
Sure. Yeah. The template that you have here is really a fantastic example of, how someone would typically use Xano, and you're, kind of demonstrating here kind of the most important use case, which is you have all of this data, and you need to make sure that you can scale that data as much as possible. And you also need that data to be portable, so you can use it between multiple front ends. That's kind of the bread and butter of Xano, and you did it all via a no code approach, of course. Those API endpoints that we saw, Xano can actually auto create those for you.
Yeah.
When you're setting up your database. So, the most basic operations of getting and updating and adding new data, Xano can provide those API endpoints for you. Same with authentication. So if you need authentication in your application, we have default authentication endpoints just pre-built, ready to go for you.
Yeah.
So you can get started pretty quick.
Yeah, because I remember I had to kind of like change some of them for like the authentication, but mostly everything, like 80% was done. And what I really liked that what we call the CRUD, so create, read, update, and delete, they were automatically done on the tables I created. So like companies, all these endpoints, they were created by default. And that's really cool. So then you can use them, hopefully, if we would load it. Yeah, that's okay. So in collection, for example, here, companies, I'm using actually REST API plugin. We do have a Xano plugin if you want to like really to use Xano specifically. But for this example, I use the REST API plugin to show you that you can also do this way. And basically, I'm using the endpoints you guys created for me. I just have to fetch the data, and you see it here. So it's really easy to use. And then I can reuse it everywhere in my app. So yeah, and just to finish, so you have kind of a small setup to do to use the Weweb and Glide. So I will send you the docs, but everything explained. And if you follow these docs, you'll be able to recreate the templates we've done for you. And now we can maybe go on the Bravo Studio implementation.
Cool. Okay. Hey, everybody. So can you put my screen on, Quentin?
Yep.
And I can, yeah. Okay, cool. So let me zoom in a little bit, because I guess that's a little.
Sorry, we have a question because I was talking, I was not checking the questions, but Federico is asking to you, Chris, if there were any pre-made endpoints of logout API call. Not sure why.
So there is not, and the reason for that is because when you when you're logging in, when your user is logging into your application that uses a Xano backend, Xano generates an auth token, and that token is what's used to for that user to authenticate against other API endpoints. So that gets stored on the user side. So in terms of logging out, that's really more dependent on your front end, and your front end would need an action to basically forget that authentication token. So the user wouldn't be able to make those requests, and they'd have to log in again.
Exactly, because most of the API calls you saw, you need authentication in the template, because we need to know like which user is asking for the data, because you don't want a user to get like another user data. So they need authentication. So what we do is that we pass the authentication token, and when you do a logout in Weweb, we simply like wipe the token and the user data. So it's like erased. So you can't just ping the backend anymore, and there's no need to do this on the Xano backend actually.
Yep.
Cool. And I think that's it for questions, right? So I'll crack on. So basically, the way that Bravo works, as I mentioned, is really connected to Figma or Adobe XD. But these days, Adobe XD is probably going to be turned off. It's just going to be Adobe Figma at some point. And what we find is that a lot of people, when they're doing designs of applications, I'll just show you, they'll often build stuff like this. They'll actually create all the wireframing out on a design so that they can understand how the workflow goes. And even in Figma, you can all put all the navigation in as well. So you know exactly how it's all going to go. And at this point here, people will often say, okay, let's go away and build this. And now obviously, either you build it from code or you build it in whatever no-code tool. But what we do with Bravo is we just take that Figma file, that definition, and we can just create an app from it. And we basically, I'm just switched to Bravo now. Oh, great. So this is difficult. So this design is too complex for the free plan that I'm demoing with, but that's the general principle. You can just take the Figma file and it will load it into Bravo. And actually, I'll show you what it looks like in Bravo, because we actually have it as a pre-built application. So when you load it from Figma, it will come in with all the screens, and then what you do is you can basically connect the elements of the design to APIs. I mean, I think the principle is pretty similar to how Weweb works, but we're obviously much more, we don't have any kind of ways of designing in ourselves. We let you design everything in Figma. And not only is it designed in Figma, but also it's synced so that every time you make a change in Figma, that can be pulled into Bravo and that can be pushed out to the actual live application. So you can iterate very fast from your Figma design all the way through to the application, which means that you can just keep those changes going. In terms of how it works in Figma, if you just see this, the main difference, the only thing you really need to add to Figma is what we call Bravo tags. I'll just kind of pick out a couple here. Oops, Daisy. Hold on a second. So you can see there, hopefully, basically, this is an asset for the splash screen. And I think the main one that's most useful for a lot of people is these ones over here. So if we look at here, and I'll pick out the button, you can see on the layers, we've actually added in, there's a password component, and then probably there's also action login. So if you hit the button, it does an action login. So those things in square brackets, they're picked up by Bravo. They picked up. Yeah, let's answer the question in a second. Yes. So exactly right. So for Bravo, the way that we do it at the front end is that we would have you basically put this tag onto a button, and so Bravo would know that if you press that, it would do the action log out and remove the token. So that's exactly how it would work in Bravo. So yeah, the sort of the main actions, and you can see, I just switched to the list. We have a list of all the actions. We have a huge amount of sort of mobile native sort of components that you can use tags for, playing video, inputting text, images, location, login. There's a whole ton of stuff you can do based on what the tags are. So really, you take your Figma design, you put your tags on it. That's really the main sort of building of it, and then you jump to Bravo to put in the APIs. And what I'll just show you here is the API side of things. So what happens is, and with Xano, we actually have a an import for Xano, where we can actually import all the API definitions in. But each API is pretty much like Postman or other tools. You've got your URL definition. You can set up your body, your pagination, the sort of query parameters you want. And I'll just do a sign up so you can see it working, for example. Hopefully that'll work. Nuts. Okay, that's
maybe because you need the auth token, no?
No, the sign up should work.
Ah, yeah, the sign up, yeah, because the
sign up should work. Access denied. The account's already in use.
Classic.
Nice. So in that case, if sign up's already there, then I should be able to log in theory. Yes. Okay. So there you go. So what happens is you set up your API request, and then when you get the data, you can actually select here which parts of the data you want to use in your application. You highlight it, and that ends up being in what we call the selected data. So these are the things that are available to be bound in the application. So for example, this means a token's available. And what I do with then is I then go into the application itself and say, okay, I want to, let's say this is a good example here. So the context. So here this is an element. This is a screen where I would want this piece here, sort of the contact, to be iterated through in a list. So what I would do is I actually connect the frame in Figma to an array, and then the elements inside I connect to the actual pieces. And what it will do is it will replicate that whole frame, all the parts of that frame, and then replace the things inside it as it loops through the list. This means that the whole thing becomes completely dynamic, and your app does all the things you want to, purely driven from what the API is giving it. So you don't have to put a lot of logic into the Bravo side. You can keep it in the back end, which means you can move pretty fast. You don't need to have mobile developers doing that stuff for you.
And actually, what's really cool is that the way you define the API calls and the way you're also binding data, it's almost the same as it's done in Weweb, because we want to keep it standard, like the way the web works. So when you're creating a collection, or like you're using REST API workflows in Weweb, it's almost the same as using Bravo Studio's API calls. And when you bind this frame to an array, it's the same as in Weweb, using a collection list, binding it to a collection of data, and then also binding elements of your data inside the list, and it gets replicated also for each element you have in the list. So yeah, it's really similar. So I think people will get, it's really easy for people to transition from one product to the other, and that's kind of cool.
I mean, really, the whole idea behind this sort of demo is to say, look, if you've got Xano backend, and you've got Weweb, or you've got a Bravo Studio, adding the other one, it almost comes for free. You've done all the hard work. You can just drop it in, which is a huge win over a lot of the other ways. And the thing that's unusual about Bravo is what's generated is a fully native application. It's not React Native. It's not a progressive web app. It is a fully native application. So generally, it's a bit smaller, and it's also access to all of the native features of the phone. I'll just show you here one of the things that we do in Bravo is particularly important that there are things like notifications and payments. In-app purchasing, you need to be in the App Store to do, and the same with notifications, which is something that's hard to do on mobile with a web app. So you need to get that native app to do that, which really opens up a bunch of extra functionality, because it's getting people's attention these days in email is really hard. So be able to do actual native notifications is a great tool. I'll just show you briefly how you can use the Bravo side. Obviously, we've got the snippet, so you can set the backend up. What we've done is actually we've put the CRM app as one of what we call as a sample app. What that means is if I click on it, it gives you a bit of information, but you can duplicate that. And what that's doing is it's basically copying the application into your account. And it also sets all the backend stuff up as well. So it's actually pointing at the standard Xano instance, so that you can use it straight away. There's nothing else to set up. If you do want to use it with your own instance, all you need to do is basically go into the URLs and just repoint them at your new URL, just a new domain name change. The actual path will stay the same. It's just domain names needs to change, and so you can use it yourself. But what we're trying to do now is show a bit of a live demo. So this is my mobile phone on the screen right now. So as you said, there's my duplicated copy of the CRM app. So Quentin, if I go to you to create an account, or if you've got an account I can use, and
Let
then
me
I can
share
log
my
in.
screen again so that we see two people. We are not cheating.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, so let me go back on the templates. Okay, so I will log out and then create Quentin plus 234 at weweb.io, and password is password. Oh no, create an account, sorry. Yeah, obviously I went too fast. JPEG Quentin plus 234 at weweb.io. So yeah, I'm signing up. So yeah, sometimes you can get quite some time because we are like creating fake data for you. But here, yeah, I'm logged in, and hopefully I will get the screen back to you, Toby, and you can log with this account.
Was it Quentin at 1234 or 1234?
Plus 234.
234. Okay, Quentin plus 234 at weweb.io. Is that right?
You've got you've got a
234.
typo. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. 234. Okay, and then password.
Password. Yeah.
And there, all the
Nice.
data is the same. So
Amazing.
you can see all the things that come in from
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing is it's a single source of truth. We don't have to do any nasty syncing. We're all looking at the same data. You make changes in one, it goes to the other place.
It's thanks to Xano, because we've got the same database, and actually this account was created in the Xano database. And actually what I can do is also like update this data. So for example, you've got internal tool for Stripe upstream, it's closing. So if I go back to my app, oops, sorry, wrong screen. Internal tool for, which one did we say? Stripe upstream, yeah, so closing, I can get it to scheduled. And if we check it in the...
So you've moved the internal ops teams to closing, right?
Yeah. So now it should be in scheduled.
Oh, excuse me, scheduled, not closing. Okay, sorry. There it's moved.
Yeah, it's here. So you see, it was synced.
Yep. It's perfect.
Thank you, Xano.
Yeah, it makes it all so easy. It's great. But I mean, to be honest, this is how we should be doing things. You know, we need to have a single source of truth. We should be using decoupling things with APIs. I mean, it makes it easier to kind of plug in the right thing in the right place. And you know, if you need to change things, then you can. It doesn't lock you in, which is a hugely powerful tool.
And we've got this question a lot, like why are you decoupling tools compared to, there's no-code tools that are more monolithic. I think monolith, they're really good to get started, to get up and running. But the thing, when you scale, you will end up to a point where like one of your, there is a single point of failure. It could be the database, could be the API, the front end, you don't know. And using several tools, you can optimize the one that's actually bottleneck, and it's much more scalable on the long term.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Joyce had a question. Did Joyce have a question? Is there a required field? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was for the sign up when it was not working. But no, it's just that we try to sign up again.
Cool. So I think that's all the stuff from the Bravo side. I've covered off all the main points. I don't know if there's any questions that anyone wants to ask.
Yeah, if people have questions, feel free to ask them. To answer them. But apparently, people liked it because we had like quite some people saying it was really nice to see the data updated. But yeah, the main thing is that you really have the same data, and you don't have to worry about actually like copying the data in each tools, because at the end of the day, there's one and only database.
Yeah. Yeah, code development is a big thing too. So like if you are working on a team, or maybe you're just working with like one other person to build, you know, whatever your idea is, you know, if you have your your decoupled backend, if you're using Xano for that portion, you can develop simultaneously. Whereas if you have everything together in one place, it definitely makes that a little bit more difficult. And this CRM is really just like the perfect example, because let's just say, as an example, this CRM started as a web app, right? And everything's great, but now your users are asking for a mobile app. Well, if your backend lives in the same platform as your front end, think about how much money you're going to have to spend and how much time it's going to take to migrate your entire backend to another platform. So really having that all in Xano is just so valuable, both at the beginning and down the road. I mean, to me, I know I work there, so I'm a little biased, but to me, it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It makes a lot of sense. This is
Yeah.
the way to getting things, give you that flexibility.
Yeah.
For sure.
I wouldn't say the opposite. I really love Xano. So I have to say, your onboarding was really cool. So I remember the first time I used it, I was like, yeah, it clicks, But yeah, like this way of using all the tools and scaling is really, really powerful in the end. Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting for me is, I've used a few tools, and Xano's a nice sweet spot between sort of flexibility of coding while still being kind of relatively kind of drag and drop. It's not like it's not like super childish in terms of what it does. You can get to some pretty complex things, but it does let you have people have a logic. So when people get to Airtable, they do something complex, and the Excel style functions don't work anymore, then the obvious thing is to have something that can actually deliver properly and have users properly and have authenticated endpoints properly, rather than nasty personal tokens and stuff, which is never a good thing to scale.
Yeah, the no-code API builder that we provide is Turing complete. So, we like to say that anything that you can do with a traditional programming language, you can do inside your Xano function stack via a, like you said, just a kind of a drag and drop interface. It is still a technical product. We definitely recognize that, kind of getting your feet wet in Xano may feel a little bit intimidating, but, we try to make it as easy as possible, and we're always putting out new education, new examples. Case in point, like the stream we're doing today, and we're, of course, we have a few different support channels available, like our support chat in Xano. We have our Xano community, and we also do weekly office hour sessions. So if anybody needs any help, like building in Xano, any questions along the way, we're always available to help.
Another question of the advantages of Xano over Airtable, and if I may, I would like to answer.
You should be getting commission, I think, probably.
Maybe I will ask. But yeah, because we're getting a lot of users that are actually coming from Airtable, and we push them to Xano. And there's a big reason is that Airtable is really cool to prototype. It's really cool to get kind of like Excel-like, functionality. But at the end of the day, it's not a real backend, so it doesn't scale at all. I mean, if you have like more than 5 or 10 users connected at the same time, like the API will get rate limits, you will be blocked, you will get like sync issues. It's not a real database. And that's the thing with Xano. You get the power of like the real database. The API is really, you can just set up the whole API the way you want. So I would say Airtable is more like for internal, really simple tools, when Xano is like to create real apps that are used by thousands of people, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would also just mention on that subject, if you already have data in Airtable, we have an Airtable importer in Xano. So if you have data there already, a couple of clicks and all of that can be moved right over to your Xano database.
And then we have another question for Toby. So do you have an example of a project on Bravo Studio using OneSignal for push notifications?
So all of the way we use notifications is with OneSignal. So what happens is, I think actually, the way I didn't touch on is what I showed you on my screen. Actually, let me show that again. Actually, I just killed it. So what I'm showing you here is what we call the Bravo Vision. So it's like our preview. It's in the App Store and lets you see all the apps in your account, so you can work with them and see them. You can actually do test one signal push notifications with that. We have so you can actually build an application and then you can do push notifications through it. We also have the ability to do deep links, so you can actually go directly into the page of your application with a notification. So you can get some pretty complex things set up. But if you then publish it, you just need to use your one signal account, put the details into Bravo, and then you can use it however you want, and you can target users and do all the segmenting you need. So we tend to try and use this idea of using the best tool for the job. So we don't try and implement the notifications ourselves. We just kind of let you connect to the good tools that let you do what you need to do. So there's lots of examples of you can use one signal almost out of the box with Bravo.
Nice.
I just have to, just as an aside, give a shout out to the Bravo Vision feature. It's so seamless to just like, once you have kind of an example of your app together and you want to see it on a device, it's incredibly easy. And it's really satisfying too, as you're kind of building that application, to be able to just like see it there right away without a major headache. It's really cool.
The one thing that's nice about Bravo Vision is what you see in Bravo Vision is basically exactly the same as you'd have it published. The only difference between Bravo Vision and the published app is we basically remove the bit that lets you look at other applications. So you only see one, and we just bundle it all up together as you do it. But the thing that we don't talk a lot about is that syncing process, so that even when your app is live, you can actually make design changes because it picks up design changes through from Bravo. So it means you can actually do, you don't always have to wait a huge amount of time, even just to make small changes to the design, and sometimes even API connectivity.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really powerful. And I imagine you have like a kind of a staging environment.
Yeah, so we have so what happens is when you're working an application that's published, all the changes you make will be seen in Bravo Vision, and only when you publish them will it actually be pushed to the actual live application. So you can get things ready and make changes without having to change things as people are using it.
Nice. Any other questions? Maybe, yeah. I'll wait 1 minute, but I think we're good. So either we are super clear or not. We'll see. I hope. But yeah, thank you guys. It was awesome seeing this. Really love doing this kind of app with Xano and Bravo. It's really powerful, and I don't say this because I'm working for Weweb. I actually really enjoyed seeing everything taking shape and being synced between tools. And so we'll see each other again for a next live with Joyce next week. So still on Thursday, 6 p.m. Paris time. So sorry, I don't remember the time in the US. I think it's 12 p.m. here in New York.
It's like around 12:30, I think. I'm in the Midwest, so I'm sitting at around 11:30 right now.
So yeah, see you on next week, and thank you guys again for having been here.
Thank you so much.
See you.
Thanks, guys.